All right, so welcome to the miracle work, the chapters, and I want to give it always a title just to be able to communicate what's happening when, but it's all coming from the same place, so it really does not matter, but it helps me to organize it a little bit, to structure it. And the miracle work, the chapters, is really great. I love it because I read through the Course in Miracles, like the big book, and make an say audiobook of it some years ago now. And so now all this is coming back too. Like, not that I didn't use the chapters, but now I take time to go deeply into the chapters. And that's a real delight for me, because now we have time to actually take a look at it and bringing it back also to our everyday experience of ourselves in our awakening. So I'm really happy that you're here and part of this, and that you decided to watch this or be part in it in class. And so it's always a bit like, how do we start this? How do we do this? It's brand new. Everything is reformulating. In my life, I don't know about yours, but it's like, wow, everything will fall into place again. But this is really a time of some cleanup, some things that are disappearing, some things that you maybe have kept holding on to for a moment, but now just seems to disappear or being replaced. Even in form, I experienced that too. So that's really interesting. And it's just part of the ideas that are changing in ourselves, of course. Since you're the source, you're the one, you're the one, not someone else is the one, you're the one. And that makes everything different. It's like, if the source of you is in you, you're the one, you're the extension of this source. And that's great to realize that. We use this a lot today too, because in fact you determine a lot of things with your mind, whether that's in thinking, whether that's in thinking that you don't have to do certain things. It's like you still determine it. In other words, it is a bit like you use the power of your mind to determine what you're going to do, where you're going to listen to. Are you listening to your thoughts, your superficial thoughts, or are you just listening to the still small voice in you? So this is your decision. So it's like you use the power of your mind to align with truth or to do your own thing. And doing your own thing is where we have been really good at, in the sense of being very consistent in doing that. In other words, it's like we have basically, if you look around, if you turn on the news or listen to anyone talk on your favorite news channel, it's like it is all about what we want and how that's supposed to look and what we want to achieve with that. And at the same time, completely forgetting that it's not up to us at all. And in the sense of, when you align with truth, you have no idea what's going to happen, because it's not your idea. You're just giving it through you, it comes to expression. But see, the choice of you to either listen to your thoughts, to your superficial thoughts, or to really step into listening to the still small voice and letting that inspire you to do things that are naturally flowing out of you, is quite a learning trajectory for each of us. It takes a bit of time to learn that. Well, today in chapter 2, there's a section in in fact, it is like a correctional procedure to get some clarity in what the effect is of your thinking. And yeah, in the first 10 lessons that we love to repeat, you see a lot of that too. So it's all related to thought. And that's interesting, because it's not what you expect your spiritual path to be, that you have to deal so much with your thinking. So why is that so important, what I think? We come to that later too, when we take a look at expressions that are related to the idea of thought. But for now, I would love to start with reviewing, say, lesson 10 to 20 of the lessons of A Course in Miracles. So, and it starts like this. And I always use my little 20-minute book with the review lessons of the first 50 lessons. So I start with lesson 11. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world that pictures them can have no meaning. What is producing this world is insane, and so is what it produces. Reality is not insane, and I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. I can therefore see a real world, or wait a minute. I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guide for seeing. So the real thoughts are then the thoughts I think with God. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Insane thoughts are upsetting. So are you seeing a meaningless world? Are you upset about it? Insane thoughts are upsetting. They produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. Only chaos rules a world that represents chaotic thinking, and chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world. I am grateful that this world is not real, and that I need not see it at all, unless I choose to value it. And I do not choose to value what is totally insane and has no meaning. A meaningless world engenders fear. The totally insane engenders fear because it is completely undependable and offers no grounds for trust. Nothing in madness is dependable. It holds out no safety and no hope. But such a world is not real. I've given it the illusion of reality and have suffered from my belief in it. Now I choose to withdraw this belief. See, and here's the decision. Like, I choose to withdraw this belief and place my trust in reality. In choosing this, I will escape all the effects of the world of fear, because I'm acknowledging that it does not exist. So 2 more. God did not create a meaningless world. How can a meaningless world exist if God did not create it? He is the source of all meaning, and everything that's real is in His mind. It is in my mind too, because He created it with me. Why should I continue to suffer the effects of my own insane thoughts, when the perfection of creation is my home? I repeat that one more time. Why should I continue to suffer from the effects of my own insane thoughts, when the perfection of creation is my home? Let me remember the power of my decision and recognize where I really abide. Okay, so one more. My thoughts are images that I have made. Whatever I see reflects my thoughts. It is my thoughts that tell me where I am and what I am. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering and loss and death shows me that I'm seeing only the representation of my insane thoughts, and am not allowing my real thoughts to cast a beneficent light on what I see. Yet God's way is sure. The images I have made cannot prevail against him, because it is not my will that they do so. My will is his, and I will place no other gods before him. Well, let's do one more. Here, this one is great too. I have no neutral thoughts. Neutral thoughts are impossible because all thoughts have power. They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one. But thoughts cannot be without effects. As the world I see arises from my thinking errors, so will the real world rise before my eyes, as I let my errors be corrected. My thoughts cannot be neither true nor false. They must be one or the other. What I see shows me which they are. So whether they are true or false. Okay, so this is then the introduction to the idea of thought. In fact, there's also immediately the correctional procedure, if you want, like real thoughts, my own thoughts, meaningless thoughts. So there are all kinds of thoughts, you could say, and they all have a certain effect. And what you see is related to what you think, and not the other way around. And this brings us also to the idea of atonement. It comes back to you, it's like it comes back to what you are thinking. So do you align with truth, then that is what you will see. Do you align with your conflictual, meaningless thoughts? Conflict will be your experience of yourself. But you cannot say not think, that's one thing. And you can also, it's like the idea of thought is continuously active. It is not that it stops. Like your mind cannot stop producing thought in a sense. You can become still, sure, but still there's thinking going on. So that's why you have to do something with it, and being very much aware of that, and say guarding, in fact, what you think, it saves you a lot of trouble, because if you can just imagine that you would think some things about today, like, oh, this and this, oh, I dream about this and this, and I fantasize about that and that, then all of that has effect on how your day will be, what images, in fact, you are going to see and where you get yourself into. And that process is really interesting, because, in fact, that's where healing can take place. So if you're not conscious of what you're thinking, you think that things are happening to you. That's logical, So to become aware of what you are thinking and guarding your thoughts can be very helpful to change the quality of your day. So this is interesting. So we go today into chapter 2e in the Urtext, and there will be all kinds of, in fact, like cues that are given that will help you to do this consciously and see the effect of it. So I prepared something for that. So revealing divine psyche, because this is like almost like psychology, but then a little bit different. And we use it. We use this to come to whole-mindedness, to whole-mindedness, to seeing that all of what we think has an effect. Now, this is where we left off last time, in fact, and let me make this big. So it's like your fearful thoughts, accepting atonement as the remedy for fear. So it's like you first discover, you have to know that it is fear that you're experiencing. Fear arises from lack of love. So the only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. And perfect love is the atonement. Okay, stop here. Perfect love is the atonement. So it's like we start with this just as almost like a warming up. So when you experience fear, you got to recognize it for what it is. You know, you feel it, you got to recognize it. And now the only way that this can be abolished is to recognize it and in fact allow the undoing to take place in you. Like apparently you have made something up that made you afraid, because it cannot come from somewhere else. You realize, like, I'm the one thinking this. I'm the one setting this up for myself, and I don't want it any longer. So the remedy against fear then, which is really interesting to know, of course, like the remedy against fear really is then to recognize it for what it is. It is fear. It stems from my own thinking. And one step down, you could say, is I can only say have this be released if I allow my ideas to fall apart into that, like to not hold on to them, to let them go, to give up what I think I want, and to, in fact, to say, allow the atonement to sort it out, like the undoing to take place in me, and coming to an experience of perfect love, which is what the miracle is like a sudden shift into invisibility, where you recognize your oneness with your brother and with God. So it's like a moment of perfect love. You feel the connectedness again. Then the fear is gone, but only then. So this is the fear remedy, you could say, even though there really is like work to do for you in that, recognizing for what it is, knowing that you're the source of it, and allowing a change to occur in which you give up your ideas about the situation that you think you are in, and having an experience of perfect love. Now you say, like, well, this is a bit much right in the beginning, so how am I supposed to do this? And because how do I know all these steps and how do I do them? Now this is where the training comes in, and this is where the, say, conscious thinking comes in, or staying alert to what you are thinking. Because like we said in the beginning too, is like you can think in two ways. One way is your own way, taking the thoughts that you're used to, valuing them, and allowing them to be expressed, in fact, in the images that you see. Or this is the second way of thinking, is aligning with truth right away and saying, like, I have no idea how to look at any of this. Show me what to do. It's like literally allowing your guidance to take over. Then whatever is expressed will be, say, with, the images don't even matter then anymore, because you feel the connectedness. That's in fact the two options that you have. Well, let's go a little bit further, because this was just the opening sentences, but very essential to know this. See, the miracle, which is like the right way of thinking, the whole-minded way of thinking, the miracle or the expression of the atonement, this is what is, say, below your thoughts that are, say, bringing up the fear images. Below that is the miracle. The miracle or the expression of the atonement is always a sign of real respect from the worthy to the worthy, from you to me, from whoever you meet to you, from the worthy to the worthy. This worth is re-established by the atonement. You could say like, okay, I come back to this. Switching over and over. See, the expression from worthy to the worthy, it is really the happening that is taking place. It's like recognizing that everyone is worthy of it, that everyone is part of the atonement principle, is your way out of fear and of distinction and of comparison. It's like it brings you to a deeper level of yourself, no matter in what situation you are. So it's like the possibility for recognizing where you actually abide. You know, recognizing that, yes, and there is abundance. Yes, there is love. I recognize in everyone my dearest friend. You know, on this level is this taking place. And that's the beauty of the miracle. It's like the miracle is really to recognize that you meet your best friend in everyone. I just prepared also like for an afternoon meditation some words from Joel. And Joel says like the I in the criminal, the I in the whoever you meet, the I in the president, the I in... It's like you are the one opening the door to that, to see the Son of God in everyone. Well, this is really the recognition that is taking place in the miracle. So it's like, this is not about thinking, yes, he's worthy. No, this is the direct experience of someone's worth. It's like in total respect, you could say, in total recognition of who you are dealing with, is that taking place. It is not about the ideas about it. No, it's about the direct expression of the worthy to the worthy. Yeah, that's a really beautiful expression. That's why I stand still for a moment with it. Like the worthy to the worthy. That already is a recognition of your worth, and whoever you meet, the worth, recognizing in fact the oneness in us, in you, since you are the one. Oh, that's so great. I love it. So that's the real miracle. I love that. I love that. Okay, so what am I doing? Okay, so here it continues. I'll repeat the sentence one more time, and then it makes so much more sense. The miracle or the expression of the atonement is always a sign of real respect from the worthy to the worthy. This worth is re-established by the atonement. See, you see also the atonement is not an idea. It is being the atonement, being one with one another, the confirmation of being one. It is obvious then that when you are afraid, you have placed yourself in a position where you need atonement because you have done something loveless, because you willed without love. See, and this is essential in what we're looking at today. You have willed without love. You could say like you've willed something for your own benefit, for your own idea of what you think you need, instead of living in the assurance that everything already is given you, like in fact in a state of constant prayer. Constant prayer is what we talked about yesterday. Like constant prayer is like the prayer that all the needs that you perceive for yourself is not what this is about. You leave them for what they are. Recognizing that everything is given you, everything that you need is given you in this moment. So it has nothing to do with your own ideas about what you think you need. Because what you think you need is a need of atonement. If you realize that you're one with all, that is your driving force, that is the love in which you are created, then whatever flows out of you is a continuation of that. So when you are afraid, like we said in the beginning, like these little steps, recognize that it's fear. If it is fear, if you are afraid, you have willed something without love. You get yourself into a situation that is not real. That is, you could say it's insane. As long as you recognize only the need for the remedy, which is the atonement, you remain fearful. As long as you recognize only the need for the remedy, you remain fearful. So you got to do something else. However, as soon as you remedy it, you have also abolished the fear. And this is how true healing occurs. Now, this is interesting. It's like, it is not enough to recognize the need for atonement. No, because that would... Oh, wait, I'm going to get myself out of this. So it is not enough to just recognize the need for atonement. No, it's actually necessary for you to step into it. Otherwise, nothing happens. Like, that is your decision. So that's something unusual for a human being, because it thinks, like the basic idea of thinking of a human being is, it thinks it needs something, and then it waits till it's given or something. Like, no, here there's something else going on. And it's very clear in my mind, and I hope I can share it with you. And it's like, and that is so interesting, trying to teach this. So it's like the thing that is happening is this. You recognize that you're afraid. You recognize that you're the source of that came by you. I don't know how to pay my bill for tomorrow. That could be a fear thought in my mind. Like, that could be a fear thought in my mind. So the next step then is realizing I'm thinking that. Does it have anything to do? Let's see, here I already enter into the atonement. Because the atonement is going to take me out of this. There is a procedure of undoing that needs to take place. I can ask myself, is it happening right now? No, it's not. Am I in danger right now? No, I'm not. Do I need to hold on to this idea? No, I do not. I can let go of it. Do I lose anything by letting go of this idea? No, I don't. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to see that this moment is perfect in itself. Like, I want that to be shown to me. Now, this then is the step that you have to take. It's like you have to allow yourself to come to a different experience of yourself. Otherwise, you stay in the mental level of, well, that's a crazy idea, or I need atonement. I need to change that. Your recognition of the truth, your recognition of the need to change this, is not what the change is. Like that's an action of you. This is what I'm trying to say. So it's not enough to think that you need to change it. You actually have to get into it and allow this to change. And the inevitable result of that is an experience of connectedness. Now, that is where the circle closes, you could say, that's where something really happens. That's where healing takes place. It is the fundamental way to heal. So it's not enough to say like, yes, I need help. No, I'm actually going to ask for help and actually going to receive that for myself. I'm going to, say, return back to my sense of oneness, to my experience of oneness, to my peace of mind. That is where I'm back in my natural habitat, I could say. You know, so this is all action of mind. You could say like these are steps that you make in your thinking, so in which something really happens. Because I know plenty of examples, people that say like, well, I really should allow a change. I really should do this. I really should blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, that's not the way that a change is going to take place. So let's get right down into it. Allow this change to occur by giving up your ideas about how things should look, by learning to say no instead of always yes, to please everyone. Or, you know, like this is very practical. But before you know it, you make a compromise. As a human being, you make a compromise to please someone, to help someone, and all this, while at the same time you are exhausting yourself and losing your connection awareness with your brother. So you're actually surviving, you're actually sacrificing yourself, and that's not necessary. So this is so to the point and so helpful in this moment. You probably have situations enough in which this is happening. So that's where the progress is made, you could say. That's where the undoing takes place. And the undoing is always liberating. It's a release of fear, a release of thoughts, a release of ideas about yourself, or say solid habits that you got yourself into but don't know how to get out of. All right, so we continue. I love this. I love this. So this is just a very specific part in chapter 2. And only chapter 2. Unbelievable. Okay, so very few people appreciate the real power of the mind. Nobody remains fully aware of it all the time. This is inevitable in this world, because the human being has many things he must do and cannot engage in constant thought watching. Very few people appreciate the real power of mind. And it says somewhere else, it's like most of us are actually afraid of it. See, the thing with using the power of your mind, which is an extension of the power of God, makes it very clear. It's like you decide something, you stay with something, and you're actually afraid that it's going to work, which is really interesting. So maybe you can recall a moment in which you made a decision where you weren't sure if you really wanted it, but you chose it anyway. Then you see that it actually worked, and that it had total consequences in what happened for you in that. It's like you could say, if I allow the change to occur to reestablish my connection with whoever I meet, I'm actually presenting myself in a totally different way. It is not superficial, like it is not superficial. No, you're actually loving your neighbor as yourself. And that's a heart-opening, complete present state of being. You know, and that's great. That's great. But do you use that all the time? Are you aware that you have the choice to do so? And this, you know, this is what's shared here. So the thing that happens then, if you don't use the real power of your mind, the thing that happens when you don't use the real power of your mind is this. It's like you start to come into this superficial level where you use your human thoughts again to make something a bit normal, humanly acceptable. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is just superficial. So the consequences of that is that you feel that about yourself too. Like it might eventually come back to you as being totally empty or lonely or depressed or, like this. Because it misses the direct communication of connectedness and total respect for your brother, and in the recognition of your oneness with God. So like that is your home. So you're actually going out of your sense of home feeling, peaceful feeling, and that is just what happens when you do so. Yeah, so that's pretty wild. I got a bit distracted by a text, but that's okay. So I'll come back to that later. I come back to the text later. Okay, so now we have all kinds of expressions about thought, and that you're very used to, or let me not think about that, or don't give it a thought, or it's just an idle thought, or I did some things thoughtless. I did some things thoughtless. Like you also speak of some actions as thoughtless, implying that if the person had thought, he would not have behaved as he did. And see, that is not possible, of course, but anyway, it's like thoughtless. You cannot be thoughtless. You cannot move, you cannot do something without thinking first. So that's interesting to see that too. So thought-provoking. Think big. This is coming closer to an idea of, say, the power of your mind. Think big. So this has a lot of impact on the way that you experience yourself in the place that you find yourself, the way that you think. Because here in Matthew 17, Jesus shares this. Because of your unbelief, for assuredly I say to you, if you have faith like a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Well, this is a bit what I mean too. So like we have all kinds of expressions of thought and thinking that, well, it doesn't matter that much what I'm thinking, or I was just an idle thought, it doesn't mean anything. And in the meantime, it creates something. Like a thought cannot have no effects. So everything that you're thinking has an effect. So that's why it's important to be consciously aware of what you are thinking, and not that you have to preoccupy yourself with it all day long, but it is good to think, to see what you are thinking and how you entertain yourself with certain thoughts. And if you really take a look at it, it is like toys, it is like toys. Some ideas you play with for a long time and keep with you as your precious ideas, while in the meantime, in the end, you will not do it or not do anything with it. It was just something that you entertained yourself with. So you could say, like, the superficial thoughts that I always put here, it was like the superficial thoughts of yourself are, say, in fact, the moments that you're actually not thinking at all. Like it has no real power in the sense of love or release of fear or atonement. Like these are superficial thoughts. Your mind is blank when it does so. It does not create anything. So the beauty then is when you are allowing the miracle, when you open your whole-mindedness, then something really happens. Like then you are experiencing your connectedness with your brother. Then you feel the love for your brother and for God. That's a whole different quality of thinking. And this is where this chapter is about. Okay, just continuing. So the truth is that there are no idle thoughts. All thinking produces form at some level. You may feel at this point that it would take a miracle to enable you to guard your thoughts during the day, which is totally true, like perfectly true. Yes, you need a miracle to do this. Human beings are not used to miraculous thinking, but they can be trained that way. Oh, right. So this is the miracle training that we're doing. All miracle workers have to be trained that way. I have to be able to count on them, Jesus says. This means that I cannot allow them to leave their mind unguarded, or they will not be able to help me. Miracle working entails a full realization of the power of thought and the real avoidance of miscreation. So that's why that is so important. And in fact, we were talking about that the other day too. I'll get out of this. So we were talking about that the other day too in the miracle work. It's like the consequence of your thinking, you need to be aware of that. But that's not really what I wanted to share. Wait a minute, I just lost that. But it's such a great thing. It's like you cannot free. Miracle working entails a full realization of the power of thought and real avoidance of miscreation. So that was the thought I wanted to take with me. Real avoidance of miscreation. So the miscreation part is nothing but thinking the superficial thoughts and going for them, valuing them. In fact, it is like if you're not consistent in allowing this to happen to you, the atonement to happen to you, you're with your with your mind on a mental level, a mental sphere, and there really is not much happening at all. So the real joy and the real happening is taking place in the deeper levels of yourself, of your thinking, allowing the miracle to do the work, allowing light to do the work. That's where something happens. And there was this really beautiful thought that just came by. Like you have these little cues that are so light and beautiful, but also so difficult to grasp, in the sense of you cannot hold on to them. They just pass by. And now I missed it again. I missed it again. So using the power of mind, it had to do with that. No, it will come back. It will come back. It's like it's so funny how that goes. Okay, so miracles cannot free the miracle worker from fear. Both miracles and fear come from his thoughts. And if he were not free to choose one, he would also not be free to choose the other. So this is what you need to realize, that you are choosing continuously which one to follow up with. Are you choosing the superficial thoughts that are, bringing you in fear, or are you choosing for the miracle that bring you to the connectedness with your brother? All right. So now I found some miracle principles that are related to ideas of thinking. Miracles are examples of right thinking. Reality, contact at all levels, becomes strong and accurate, thus permitting correct delineation of intra and interpersonal boundaries. As a result, the doer sees the truth as God created it. This is what is meant by the point of perspective adjustment. Okay, so here's somebody coming in. Perspective adjustment. Miracles are examples of right thinking. Keep that in mind. Miracles are thought creations. Thought can create the lower order or the higher order realities. This is the basic distinction between intellectualization and thinking. One creates the physical, the other creates the spiritual. And we believe in what we create. You see, there's a lot to study. So it's like this already way too short to say give everything that is in this chapter. So I will not even try. But the thing is that the two ways of thinking, like one creates the physical, one creates the spiritual, it becomes very obvious. Like you know this, that is common knowledge in a sense. But the spiritual is also related to experience, as the say the lower order thinking brings you into fear and pain. It's like it is a lower level, a superficial form idea, but you believe. Here's the thing I wanted to share. It's like you believe in what you create. You believe in what you see. And this is why it sometimes seems to be hard to get yourself out of a fear situation, because to you it is a reality. To you it is real. You're right in the middle of it. So how could you possibly deny it, the reality of it? That's impossible. But say here's where the miracle comes in too. So it's like when you allow yourself to open up to what is given in the moment, instead of holding on to your ideas about what your situation is. And sometimes you need someone for that, to remind you of that. Open something in your mind in which actually something else can occur. So the situation that you find yourself in has an alternative. Say you can be taken out of it, but the solution will not be in the situation itself, but in the taking out of you out of the situation for a moment, so that you can choose again, in fact. I hope this makes sense to you. It is a real attempt to convey what is in the chapter, and you see that the thinking is really important. And I underestimated that for myself for a long time. And it's like I was not very precise in what I was thinking, and that had consequences. So then you lose track of, you lose clarity. But that has changed. So that's really beautiful. So over and over, you allow this process as a daily training, you could say. You allow your mind to return back to this clarity. Like, yes, of course, I want to act out of love. Yes, of course, I want to see my brother for who he really is. Yes, of course, I want to align myself with the will of God. So saying this or feeling this, letting this occur and deciding that to be my guide in the day is then really what this is about, and what will give you the clarity that you're looking for. And not only clarity, but also the joy that comes with it, the fulfillment that is related to it. Now this is, I think, the basic correction, you could say, that takes place. So it's like coming from the superficial level, recognizing there's an alternative, allowing that to come to you, and to say, allowing that to come to you and become your experience by your openness to it. This is what I wanted to share. So, thank you for listening, and thank you for being here. I love to end with a miracle prayer that can help us even more. So in the prayer is always a confirmation that you have not the needs that you think you have, but that everything is given to you already. Okay, so here's one of thinking. I have already chosen what you will. Father, I thought I wandered from your will, defied it, broke its laws, and interposed a second will more powerful than yours. Yet what I am in truth is but your will, extended and extending. This am I, and this will never change. As you are one, so am I one with you. And this I choose in my creation, where my will became forever one with yours. That choice was already made, for all eternity. It cannot change and be in opposition to itself. Father, my will is yours, and I am safe, untroubled and serene, in endless joy, because it is your will that it be so. So here it is. This is like a perfect description of a miracle. Today, we will accept our union with each other and our source. We have no will apart from His, and all of us are one because His will is shared by all of us. Through it, we recognize that we are one. And through it, we find our way at last to God. I have already chosen what you will. So that's really beautiful. So that is really beautifully related. So it's what number is it? 329. It's like that's really related to what I tried to share here today. Like the recognition that we're one, that you are the one, recognizing yourself in everyone. That's just so lovely. And feeling the connectedness with all aspects of it. All right, well, miracle workers, keep practicing and we'll keep training. That's so lovely. So thank you for your presence here today, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.